While I was cooking, shoulder brace and all, my wife barged in carrying McDonald's, glanced at the dinner I'd been making, and scoffed. God, even your food looks as pathetic as you do. Then she turned to our 6-year-old and added, Honey, promise me you'll never end up with a loser like your dad. Some men are just born failures. I said nothing. I quietly packed away the anniversary dinner I'd spent hours making, then watched them eat fast food like none of it mattered. Today I woke up to 13 missed calls from her. But something inside me cracked last night, and I've got to let this out before I lose it completely. Eden and I have been married 12 years. We have a 6-year-old daughter named Poppy. She's my whole world. For over a decade, I've busted my ass to support our family. We're not rich, but we're stable. Never missed a mortgage. Never complained. About the long shifts. 3 weeks ago, I injured my rotator cuff at work. Not fully torn, but bad enough that the doctor gave me a massive brace and told me to rest. The pain has been unreal. I've been downing ibuprofen just to function, and sleeping upright in a recliner because lying down makes it feel like my arm's being torn off. Still, yesterday was our anniversary, 12 years. Despite all the tension lately, I wanted to do something nice. Eden's changed these past few years. Cold, snappy, constantly criticizing everything from my clothes to my dad jokes, even the ones Poppy still giggles at. At first, I thought it was job stress, but it never stopped. Nothing I did was ever enough. Still, I remember the woman I married, so I put together a dinner, her favorite salmon with garlic butter, roasted asparagus, and homemade sourdough. Even made tiramisu from scratch because she mentioned craving it. Did it all one-handed, fighting through the pain. Poppy helped me in her little Christmas apron, tearing lettuce for the salad. The table looked great. Fancy dishes, candles, and a gift box with simple silver earrings I'd saved for. Around 6:42 p.m., I heard Eden's car. Finally, I thought. She was nearly an hour late, no text or call. The salmon had been resting way too long. The door slammed. She walked in wearing her work clothes and holding those McDonald's bags. She spotted the table and rolled her eyes. Not a single word. I froze. Good arm holding a serving spoon, heart racing. She dropped the bags on the counter and told Poppy to go wash her hands. Then looked at my food and said those words. I could maybe have swallowed just that. Marriage has its bad days. But what she said next broke something in me. She turned to our daughter, our sweet, bright Poppy, in her tiny apron and told her, Promise, Mommy, you'll never end up with a failure like Daddy. Some men are just born losers. I'm not twisting anything. Those were her actual words. In front of our kid, Poppy's face crumpled. She looked from me to her mom to the table we'd set together. You could see her little brain trying to figure out what the hell was happening. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. Didn't slam anything. My dad always said, Your character shows when you're at your lowest. So I just packed up everything while they ate. Eden scrolled through her phone like nothing was wrong. Poppy barely touched her food. The candles burned low. After dinner, I cleaned up their trash, blew out the candles, and went out to the garage to sit in the truck. I stayed there an hour, just trying to breathe through the storm building in my chest. When I came back inside, Eden was glued to her reality show. Didn't even glance at me. I took Poppy upstairs, gave her a bath, and read her a story. She hugged me tighter than usual, like she could feel something was off. I spent the night on the couch, staring at the ceiling, running through the past couple years. How she stopped touching me, stopped smiling when I walked in. How her after-work hangouts became more frequent and vague. This morning, she acted like none of it happened. Made her toast, kissed Poppy's head, and left. Just another Thursday for her. I stayed home, dropped Poppy off at school, and sat in the parking lot for an hour. No clue what I'm supposed to do next. My dad's been gone 6 years, but I swear I could hear his voice saying, There's a difference between being patient and being a doormat. So I made 2 calls. First, to my high school buddy who's now a divorce lawyer. Second, to my sister Jen, asked if Poppy and I could crash at her place for a few days while I figure things out. I'm not making any rash decisions. But something happened last night that can't be undone. You don't humiliate someone already hurting. And you definitely don't turn your own kid against their father. Tomorrow, I'm picking Poppy up early. We're spending the weekend at Jen's. Eden doesn't know yet. She'll find out when she walks into an empty house and reads my note. I'm typing this one-handed. My thumb is sore from hitting these little phone buttons, but I had to let it out. Maybe I've failed at some things. Maybe I wasn't ambitious enough or bold enough. But I've been a loving dad and a faithful husband. I deserved more than public humiliation in front of my child. My shoulder's killing me, but it doesn't hurt as bad as my heart thinking about what this will mean for Poppy. This isn't the kind of anniversary story I ever imagined sharing, but here we are. Sorry for the rant. I don't even know what I'm looking for here. Advice, support, I don't know. I just needed to finally say it out loud before I burst. Update 1. It's been 16 days since the McDonald's mess. 16 days living with someone who clearly sees me as nothing more than a waste of space. And 16 days since I quietly started putting my plan into motion, what my dad used to call the long game. That weekend at Jen's was just what we needed. Poppy got to be a kid. We baked, watched cartoons, and for once, nobody called me a loser. Jen knew something was up the moment we walked through the door. After Poppy went to sleep, I showed her the audio I'd recorded that night. Yeah, I started recording months ago, just in case. Eden's gaslighting hit a whole new level. My memory's not slipping, her lies sure are. When I told Jen everything, she cried, then got pissed, then looked me square in the eye and asked, "Okay, so what's the plan now?" I wish I could say I handled it all like a pro, but truth is, I almost fired off a text telling Eden I wanted a divorce and blocked her right then and there. But anger makes you reckless. I was boiling. The only thing that held me back was hearing my dad in my head. Preparation beats provocation every time, son. So instead of blowing it all up, I came home that Sunday night with Poppy like everything was normal. Eden didn't even glance up from her laptop when we walked in. No, how was your weekend? No hug for our daughter. Just asked if I'd picked up her dry cleaning. I hadn't. I guess the shoulder brace I was still wearing wasn't a good enough excuse. That night, I started checking boxes. First thing, Monday, I opened a new account at a different bank, transferred exactly half our savings, documented every dime, changed my direct deposit at work, made copies of every important document we had, birth certificates, mortgage info, insurance, all of it. Tedious, boring, but necessary. I booked a telehealth session with a divorce therapist who specializes in kids, took the call during my lunch break, sitting in my truck. She gave me some good advice about protecting Poppy without trashing Eden. That's been the toughest part. Staying calm. Wednesday came, and it was brutal. I drove over to Eden's parents' house while she was at work. Her mom made coffee. Her dad sat across from me with that quiet, unreadable look. He raised a daughter I don't even recognize anymore. I played them the recording from the dinner. Showed them screenshots of her texts over the past few months. Her dad's hand shook when he put his mug down. They asked if there was a way to fix it, counseling maybe. I didn't answer. I just pulled out another clip, 2 months old, of me asking Eden to go to counseling and her literally laughing. Said she didn't need a mediator to tell her she married beneath her potential. The silence in the room said enough. Then Eden's mom asked me straight up if I thought she was cheating. I didn't want to sound like the bitter husband making things up, but that question unlocked everything I'd been trying not to admit. The late nights, the weekend work trips, how she suddenly started locking her phone after years of not caring. That night, while she was showering. I checked it. Yeah, I know. It's a gray area. But she'd used my fingerprint to open my phone for years. What I found wasn't cheating, but it felt worse. Hundreds of messages with her boss, Jake. Not just work stuff, jokes, complaints about me, emojis, accidental dinner plans. She'd tell me she was working late, but here were these texts saying, "He just doesn't get me like you do." The emotional affair script, line for line. I took screenshots, sent them to myself, and put the phone back without a trace. I didn't say a word. I just kept collecting what I needed. The next step was even harder, pretending nothing was different while building my case behind the scenes. I started teaching Poppy how to make simple breakfasts on Saturdays. Just little things like pancakes and eggs. Eden walked in during our third cooking session and froze like her brain couldn't process the sight of our daughter smiling and learning from the man she'd emotionally bulldozed. She's starting to catch on. My calmness is messing with her. I don't react to her insults anymore. I take Poppy for ice cream without asking first. I stretch and strengthen my shoulder every morning, and not just physically. I'm rebuilding myself. Last weekend, I took Poppy to the Children's Museum 2 towns over. Eden texted, asking where we were. I waited 6 hours and replied, "Out, home for dinner." She went off, 17 messages back to back, flipping from annoyed to furious. I sent them to my lawyer. He added them to the file. I've also been quietly reaching back out to old friends, people she had slowly pushed away from me. Just a few catch-up messages, a coffee meetup here and there. Not out of revenge. Just to get my support system back. Turns out, a lot of people had seen Eden's shift. They just didn't know how to bring it up. Meanwhile, Eden's getting more aggressive, more erratic. Like she's hoping to push me into snapping so she can play victim. Last night, she accidentally knocked a full glass of water onto my phone during dinner. I just wiped it up. Didn't flinch, didn't say a word. The look on her face? She wasn't used to that. Maybe for the first time, she realized her games weren't working anymore. This morning, I had an early meeting with my lawyer. We finalized the divorce documents. They're sitting in an envelope in the glove box of my truck. Tomorrow's the day. It wasn't some symbolic decision. It just lined up with payday, and now everything's ready. My shoulder's recovering faster than the doctor expected. And this morning, Poppy asked me if we could have another sleepover at Aunt Jen's. That was the final piece. I picked her up from school early today. We're heading to Jen's for the weekend. I didn't tell Eden. My phone's been on silent, zipped up in my coat. When I stopped at a gas station, I saw 13 missed calls from her. Let her spiral. Let her feel the confusion she used to weaponize against me. For 2 years, she's chipped away at me. Made me feel like a ghost in my own house. Said things to our daughter no child should hear. Told a 6-year-old that her dad was a born loser. Monday morning, she's going to find out exactly how wrong she was. Kindness hits different when you're hanging on by a thread. Eden had gone on a girls' trip that weekend, which I later found out was actually a cabin getaway with Jake upstate. Her friend Melissa's Instagram stories gave it away. Those tagged locations didn't match the wine-tasting narrative. Amateur move. So when Eden walked into the house Monday evening, what she found wasn't me waiting with dinner. It was silence. An empty house and divorce papers sitting neatly on the kitchen counter next to a stack of unopened mail. No blowout fight, no yelling, just cold, clear reality. The first text hit my phone at 7:43 p.m. 3 words. "Is this real?" I didn't answer. At 9:16, she was pounding on Jen's door, face blotchy, makeup running, a mess. Not the put-together woman who mocked me over salmon. My sister answered the door while I stayed in the guest room with Poppy. The yelling started fast. Eden demanding to see her daughter, Jen calmly saying it was late. Eden threatened to call the cops. Jen, absolute legend, pulled out her phone, played the recording from our anniversary, and asked if Eden really wanted the police hearing how she talked to her husband and daughter. And just like that, silence. Like someone cut the power to her chaos. I didn't want war, truly. We've got a kid. But Eden wasn't going to let this be simple. The very next morning, she started calling mutual friends, spinning stories about me having a breakdown and abandoning my family. What she didn't realize was that I'd already talked to most of them weeks before. Not to bash her, just to explain things calmly. Her smear campaign backfired fast. Mike, who we've known since college, texted her back one sentence. "We've heard the recordings, Eden." By Wednesday, Eden's mom called, not to defend her, but to check on Poppy. Her voice cracked as she told me Eden had always been their hard one, competitive, demanding, never satisfied. She said she was afraid they failed her. I told her gently that she and her husband were always welcome in Poppy's life, no matter what happened between Eden and me. Then the real chaos hit. Eden found out I'd already moved half our savings. Her text looked like a rage stroke. Caps lock, typos, total meltdown. The next day, my lawyer emailed me saying Eden had tried to empty our joint account but found it closed. He'd told me to do that the day I filed. Smart guy. Week 2? A whole new level of desperation. Eden showed up at my office, cornered me in the parking lot, crying one second, cursing the next. My co-workers saw. Some turned away, some pretended not to notice. I kept walking, repeating, "Contact my attorney." My supervisor, who went through his own nasty split last year, just gave me a quiet nod when I walked back in. Nothing needed to be said. Then came the Jake situation. I didn't plan it. Someone else sent screenshots of Eden's texts with Jake to their HR. Not technically against policy, but using company time and resources for personal rendezvous? That crossed the line. That Thursday, Eden blew up my phone with messages blaming me for ruining her job. I didn't reply. I won't lie. It felt like karma catching up. The hardest part was explaining everything to Poppy without turning her against her mom. The therapist told me to keep it simple and honest. Mommy and Daddy don't get along and will be living in different homes. Poppy's only concern? Whether her stuffed bunny collection could go to both houses. Kids really are amazing when we don't pull them into our mess. Week 3, Eden switched tactics. First, it was love bombing. Flowers delivered to Jen's, returned to sender. Voicemails about remembering our love, deleted. A handwritten letter about counseling, straight to my lawyer. Then she shifted to playing supermom. Showers of gifts during her visitation days. Constant talk about when we're all back. Home together. The therapist warned me she might do this. 5 weeks in, Eden hit rock bottom. During Poppy's school concert, she showed up late, clearly buzzed, and tried to sit with us in the family section. When the teacher gently redirected her to the back, she broke down crying loud enough to make people turn. I'll never forget the look on Poppy's face watching her mom be quietly escorted out by the vice principal. That one still haunts me. Last week, settlement talks finally began. My attorney laid out fair, simple terms: split assets, joint custody, structured support based on income. Eden's lawyer kept glancing her way as she refused every offer. Finally, my attorney placed a folder on the table: recordings, screenshots, witness statements, documentation from the school concert. Eden went stone cold. Her lawyer whispered something, and she gave one slow nod. 20 minutes later, it was done. Yesterday, I signed the lease on a small 2-bedroom 10 minutes from Poppy's school. It's basic, beige walls, creaky cabinets, but peaceful. No walking on eggshells, no icy silence, just Saturday mornings with cartoons playing while we flip pancakes. Eden still texts, but less now. The last one read, "I didn't think you'd actually leave." After 12 years, turns out she never really knew me at all. On Friday, my supervisor called me in. I thought it was about all the time off I'd taken, but instead he offered me a promotion. Not huge, but a raise and some validation. First good thing in months. And this morning, Poppy asked if we could invite her grandparents over for dinner next weekend. She wants to show them the dinner I made that never got eaten. So I'm making that anniversary salmon again. This time, it'll be appreciated. Funny how life flips when you stop letting people rewrite your worth. Eden thought I was a born loser. Turns out, I just married one.